What we're going to be talking about is discovering LinkedIn advanced techniques for finding high-value clients. And this is actually a very relevant topic because LinkedIn is a really good source for finding new clients. However, there are some really important techniques that you need to be aware of because this will become a lot more obvious a bit later on. But what you'll find is you'll get a lot of your targeting wrong because this is just not covered by most people as part of training sessions. And the difficulty is you'll probably find 70 or 80% of what you're doing is off target because certain things have not been put in place. So what I would just also mention to you is do reach out to other people as part of these live streams as people chat and introduce themselves. What you'll find is, especially if you start joining us regularly, is we've got a number of regulars that do take part. And we've found that over time, a number of really good relationships have been formed. And this will also become very obvious through a few things I'm going to be sharing with you as well. We are here to support you on your journey. We recognize that whether you're a company of one or a company of 1,000, then it can be a very lonely journey because there are lots of things you may not be able to confide in with your partners or peers or fellow directors. Or if you're a one-person business, you can get fed up with the four walls around you and trying to stay motivated and inspired. Perhaps when things are a little bit quiet, can be a challenge. Equally, the other thing can be true too, where you get problems coming out of the woodwork which you hadn't expected, and it can really set you back. So we want to work with you at a very deep level to help you to achieve success. And obviously, if you do enjoy today's session, do feel free to share this on Facebook or on YouTube, and equally subscribe to the channel on YouTube and hit that bell, as they say, if you would like to be regularly notified about it. So we've already talked about this a little bit in the general intro, but do tell us what you're passionate about, why you do it, and also please don't be backwards in coming forward with your questions. We do love questions. It provides lots of interaction and makes it a lot more fun. Now, the methodology that we're sharing today very much fits in around this whole thing about your optimized system for business growth. The core part that we're mainly focusing on today is these three cogs here, which is around lead generation, prospect nurturing, and sales optimization. But like any well-oiled machine, you need to have all these parts working really well in your business, whether you're a very small company or a much larger business. And I'll go into a bit more detail around this as well. But fundamentally, you need to make sure you've got a very strong strategic guidance systems in place. You've got your value brand proposition correct. People need to understand what you're all about and also feel that you care as well. And then it's about putting in place strategies to amplify your brand, but in a way that's scalable. And the difficulty is a lot of people don't think very strategically about this. And as a consequence, they find they're having a very small impact rather than much larger impact. And then the social selling blueprint, i.e. lead gen, prospect nurturing, sales optimization, we'll talk about it much more detail in a second. And then there's a whole part around what you're doing with your clients. How can you enhance those relationships so they become almost raving fans, if you excuse that language, and what you can put in place so they want to refer other people and also buy other products and services from you. And it's all based around what we class as bring your sales forward, amplify your brand, and get your time back. Time is one of these currencies where you can buy time by saving time in future or scaling what you do so you get your time back, but you can never reclaim time that's lost. It's actually more important than money fundamentally. But hopefully that become clear as we go through. Now, today we will be sharing some more advanced techniques for finding high-value clients on LinkedIn around the social selling blueprint. And if you want more leads and sales-based opportunities, you're definitely in the right place, especially if you're after higher value leads and opportunities. And some very important things to consider around this is that what you may well want to do is to create sales with predictability, especially as we're coming out of the current lockdown as it is now. So you can create predictabilities from every 100 cold leads that you're attracting, how you can put strategies in place to turn those into 10 hot prospects in your chosen target market. And this is all without paying for any pay-per-click, so you're saving money, and you're also increasing your profits by attracting high-value clients, and you're leveraging your time and getting more billable work and building scale into your business. And even if scale isn't so important to you, it is about leveraging what you can do so you can achieve, increase your billable time, which obviously puts you in a much better place. So let's set the scene. A quick review on Google, Facebook, and Instagram, pay-per-click, and then we'll cover LinkedIn and linked BizGrowth Time Machine, and we'll explain why this should feature so highly in your lead flow of sort of sales-based opportunities. And the first thing to do is to bear in mind that you need to consider who your ideal clients are and how to find them. And it's about trying to think of the ideal avatars for your clients and how you can avoid expensive pay-per-click. If you can find ways of doing this so you can keep them up, your hard-earned money in your pocket, then clearly that's a good thing. And nothing we're talking about today is going to involve any costs as far as pay-per-click is concerned. We do recommend, if you're using LinkedIn as a strategy or a tool to bring in clients, that you invest perhaps £60 a month in a Sales Navigator account on LinkedIn, but that's just simply so that you can do much more targeted search. And remember, if you're doing a pay-per-click campaign, that a click is just a click, and there are multiple points of failure. And if you get it wrong, it literally can be a case of pouring money down the drain. So let's take a little bit of an example of that. So, for example, what you may not be aware of, because I certainly wasn't until about 3 or 4 years ago, but these days, when pay-per-click largely started out, 15 years ago or so, you could actually have quite a poorly designed landing page, and you'd still get pretty good rankings on Google and Yahoo and the others at the time. Okay, these days it doesn't really work like that anymore because everyone is sort of doing this type of stuff. What it means is that your key phrase search and keywords need to be very focused on, on the platforms through search engines, and also your pages, your landing pages need to be highly optimized. And I'm not talking about just speed load times here. What I'm talking about is the actual words on the landing page need to ideally dynamically change according to the advert, or if not, you need to have multiple landing pages. Because although it's not essential to have multiple landing pages, the trouble is that Google penalizes you in effect because they give you lower page rank score, and as a consequence, you will end up by paying a lot more for your ads, and it's not obvious, so it can be a hidden cost. So getting it right can be a lot more cost effective than trying to save money or time by getting away with one landing page. And that's quite a big subject. Also, we can speak about that separately, but it's just worth being aware. And then you've got obviously, what is free and almost free, and we all know that social media, YouTube, blogging, articles, a lot of that can be done for free. Okay, and equally getting referrals, recommendations, that could be free, and perhaps running some events or even webinars that can be done either free or very low cost. And you've got obviously paid for forms of advertising, which are on the right hand side, and basically the consideration around that is how much you invest around your time. And let's discuss how you can create predictability. So from every 100 cold leads in your chosen target market, you could turn into 10 hot prospects, and how you can save money with no pay-per-click and increase the profits by attracting high-value clients and leverage your time to get more billable work and build scale into everything you're doing. So let's look at some LinkedIn advanced techniques for finding high-value clients, and how you can get people warmed up as part of the sales process. And be very careful on these platforms, because remember as well, if something is free, then you are the asset and the commodity. Okay. Now that might seem strange to you, But if you look at, for example, Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, do they make money out of you if you don't pay for anything? Well, they don't directly from you, because you are benefiting from all these fantastic platforms at no cost. However, these platforms make a lot of money through advertising. And if they had no audience, then what you'd find is they equally would get no ad spend. I know I'm stating the obvious there. Now, obviously, there is a trade-off there. They're giving you all these resources for free, but in exchange, they're wanting to be able to display advertising, and they want to keep you on those platforms as long as possible. So, so it really is a case of either investing your time or you invest money, or both. And crucially, if you try and do all this yourself, remember, something's only free if you don't value your time. Okay, so you're not effectively putting value on your time if you are not using techniques to really leverage everything you're doing. So it's about doing things in such a way how you can get your time back. And let's look at LinkedIn and why that is so important. Well, around 675 million users are on the platform, of which about 25 million people are on the UK, using LinkedIn on the UK. And LinkedIn is the #1 business social network. And the average person on LinkedIn earns way above the national average wage. And that's not just in the UK, it's in the US and many other Western style economies, which obviously does include large parts of Asia, parts of Europe, and so on. So it can work very well in the business to consumer market, but it tends to work better where perhaps you've got a higher ticket sale, or where you maybe want to reach out to wholesalers or distributors or sponsors. So LinkedIn can work well in that space because we're all individual consumers, but it works best in the business-to-business space or business in the charity space, a sector, or equally where you want to get wholesalers, distributors, and sponsors. It's also got vast reach. So if you look at someone who's got 400 connections on LinkedIn, then you've actually got a reach of 60 million people. Okay, now does that mean you can contact 60 million people? Well, of course not. But what it does mean is that you can reach small segments of that 60 million people, but based on the targeting you put in place. Now, equally, if you've got about 2,500 connections on LinkedIn, that gives you access to almost, believe it or not, a third of the LinkedIn network. If you've got about 5,000, it's almost the entire LinkedIn network. Okay, now, albeit very small segments of that. But the crucial thing is we show you how to reach those golden nuggets. And engagement is higher than ever at the moment. It's a great place to find new clients or new partners or new sponsors. And if you look at ourselves as a case in point, if we look at, for example, emails, we've got a list of 58,000 business email addresses, of which 14,000 are what we regard as being top tier, okay? And that accounts for about 25% of the new opportunities come through to us. So email is good, but it's not as effective as you might think, especially when, with what I'm going to share with you today. Referrals, we get quite a few of those. They show us a low percentage because the LinkedIn part is such a dominant force to what we do. And with Facebook and Instagram, we tend to use that more strategically through what's classed as retargeting. Okay, now, interesting enough, retargeting has got a bit more difficult now. And I'd be really interested to see here, actually, out of those of you who've joined us today, has anyone got an idea why retargeting has got more difficult now? Let's put it this way, without trying to give you too much of a clue, we've perhaps come back to this in a moment. If I was to say to you that there are sort of greater privacy concerns and everything else revolves around that, that's a little bit of a clue. I'd be interested to know what's been perhaps one of the biggest changes being implemented as from the 26th of April. In fact, I've got it ingrained in my memory for all sorts of reasons. But the person who comes up, I'll tell you what, the person who comes up with the right answer on that can win a £20 Amazon voucher. How's that? So let's see who comes up with the right answer on that and see what we can do. Okay, Muriel, so keep an eye out on that for me as well and from the chat. Okay, and so basically, when you move over to the new model, you are in complete control of the sales process. You can create clients on demand with predictability, and you can get people to the point where they're actually asking for more information or to have a sales-based conversation. So let's narrow this down a little bit more. If you want to define in your own market, the important thing is to start off by defining and look at owning your market. So one of the biggest mistakes we see is that people try to be generalists, okay? And the difficulty is if you're a generalist, it typically means that you are trying to serve everyone. And unless you've got the advertising budget of British Telecom or British Gas or whoever your largest suppliers are where you live, in reality, your efforts are going to be so diluted, it's going to have no impact whatsoever. So it is about being niche and micro-niche and making sure you've got a suite of products to suit different price points. It's also important to look at the segmentation part of everything that you do. These are some of the clients that we've served. We've got so a lot more to add to that. This is the selection. Now, obviously, some big names that you might know, like PayPal Giving and so on. But you'll notice the crucial thing is it's been broken down to different sectors like financial services and insurance, business services, legal and accounting, consulting and coaching, technology-based companies, charities, events and hospitality-based organizations. And more recently, we've got, interestingly enough, a cryptocurrency platform that we're speaking to at the moment, they're clients of ours. We've all sorts of really obscure things that companies we've served as well. Anything ranging from companies who specialize in a special coating for ships' engines. And that in that case, we were helping to get clients to the US, UK, and France. So we're running 5 simultaneous campaigns with them. But if you can think about your segmentation, your targeting, it will really make a big difference. Where this ties in is there's 147 industry sectors on LinkedIn. And it's about thinking about, the Jane or the Bob, whoever that person is you're looking to reach out to. Out of that 147, about 120 or so are really good for targeting and finding clients. The other 27 or so may be more difficult simply because they want to make their presence less obvious. So if, for example, in the judiciary or the police or the armed forces, yes, some of our friends there are on LinkedIn, but they don't necessarily may hide their existence or prefer not to be seen for obvious reasons. Then the second thing really is about presenting yourself as the expert and not hiding. And this is where the optimization of your profile is really important, which builds on your expertise and credibility. And when we look at people's profiles, we typically find out of about 3,000 that we've looked at so far, only about 8% are properly optimized, 17% are semi-optimized, and 3/4 are poorly optimized. Okay, now that's not necessarily your fault, by the way, because the thing is, LinkedIn make most of their money from recruitment companies, and that's how they started out originally. So hence, your LinkedIn profile tends to be designed to look like a glorified CV. LinkedIn has got what we call company pages, but in reality, when you communicate with someone, is it a company reaching out to you, or is it an individual? Now, obviously, that individual may be representing a company, okay, but people buy from people first. So actually, it's about making sure your profile is optimized in the correct way. So, here's an example. Your profile, rather than doing it as LinkedIn recommends, we suggest you basically, first of all, explain what you're passionate about. Is then explaining a little bit about what your organization specializes in, okay? Then it's a case of bringing out 6 or 7 key pain points which your potential clients will relate to, 6 or 7 key benefits. Those are like bulletized lists. Then having a little bit of a hook into something you may offer for free. So it might be a link to a video, it might be a link to a diagnostic tool, it may be a link to a white paper or a downloadable report or a downloadable book. Then we actually suggest having your contact details at the bottom, okay? Now, this is very different to what you would normally hear. And even the contact details we suggest putting here as well is under the contact info part of your profile, because if someone's not connected with you, they only get access to limited information. And in reality, you want yourself to be known for what you are an expert in, and that way people can easily reach out to you if they can engage. And the other crucial thing is, if you get this right, when you do your messaging will be in sync with that and be all coherent, and people will understand a lot more about what you do. It's also about accelerating the relationship of trust and presenting yourself as your expert. And that's really important, again, because we all buy from people we don't like, know, respect and trust. If you actually really don't like that person very much, you'll probably find all sorts of reasons why you shouldn't buy from them. It's all natural human behavior. Now, sometimes, you don't have a choice. You may be buying a commodity type item. You don't like the person you're speaking to at all, but for whatever reason, you have to buy it from that place. But especially if you've got higher ticket sales, then the building the relationship of trust is really, really important. And that needs to be accelerated online. And there's all sorts of strategies you can put in place around that. And in terms of following on from that, importance of recommendations, they count for a lot. Okay, so it's about trying to put in things in place to make sure that those are on your profile, because people actually do look at recommendations a lot before they reach out and engage with people, and share videos and white papers and PDFs, make them available from your website, from LinkedIn. Then it's really about the social selling blueprint, which is having the perfect lead generation system, a good, brilliant prospect nurturing system, the sales optimization process. And let's look at the avatar of the sort of ideal type of client. So let's say you're wanting to find someone who's a Jane or a Bob, to get back to a Jane or a Bob again, and then think about which industry sectors they might be in, and then what level of seniority they're in, and also location. So it may be that you want to have someone with a business which is within a 100-mile radius of where you live, whether it's in London or in New York or Edinburgh, whatever that actually is. You can do a postcode search based on distance, which is really powerful, and then reach out to second and third level connections. And then you do some key phrase search around, say, business analyst as a case in point. That will really narrow it down. Now, this is where it sort of gets really interesting, because one of the challenges you're going to find is because 75%, sorry, get this correct, 75% of businesses in the UK, and it's a similar percentage in sort of the US and most Western style economies, that micro businesses, one-person companies, represent 75% of the market. You've then got about another 18% which employ between 2 and 10 people. Okay, that's 18%. So 95% of businesses, give or take, actually employ 10 or less people. Okay, you've then got, I'm trying to remember the numbers now, about another 4% of businesses which employ between 11 and 50. You've got about another 220,000 which employ, it represents about 1% of business in the UK. And the actual number of corporate entities, i.e. where they employ 250 people or more, actually only in the UK represents about 6,500 businesses, okay? And so this is where people go completely wrong. So now LinkedIn you can search for a number of employees, but it's not terribly accurate. Now there is another thing you can do to really hone this down, and that is to be able to search by turnover as well. Now, it's something that's very hidden. LinkedIn haven't made it very easy to use, but through training from ourselves, we can help you to get to that. And that's actually very powerful, because let's say your target market is reaching businesses between 3 million and 10 million pounds, give or take, then you can do that using LinkedIn. And interesting enough, that's more difficult than you might think, because companies turning over less than 8 million pounds, give or take, in the UK anyway, only have to file abridged accounts at Companies House. So LinkedIn obviously have got other ways of filing information out. I suspect they've probably got some direct dealings with some of the the credit reference agencies. They're able to get some of the data that way. And that's really useful because instead of, if your target market is actually the range I talked about or higher, then it tends to mean that you're able to target out those businesses which are the real micro businesses which can't afford your service provision. Now, obviously, it may well be a case they're a really good target market for you to reach. So, I'm just giving that as an example. But turnover can be a very good indicator as to whether there's a bit of a fit for you. Okay, so, and then this is like an example of what the screen looks like on LinkedIn. This is like the advanced search screen. And obviously, every time you narrow these down, the number of people you're reaching it reduces, so it can be much more targeted. And in terms of the prospect nurturing process, then it is about making sure you adopt a very thorough methodology. Now, if you can do this manually, and we can show you how to do this manually, but the difficulty is it's all right when you first start running a campaign because you're only dealing with a small number of people. But as you start to try and extend this out, not only is it very time consuming, if you're running a full campaign doing it manually, it can take you 3 to 5 hours a day. And I'm not exaggerating. That's if you really want to use LinkedIn to maximum effect. What you want to do is put strategies in place where you can bring that down to about 15 minutes a day. Okay. And we can show you exactly how to do that. But people need to feel they're having a really personal experience with you. So we normally recommend a 5 to 7 message process over a period of time. But these messages may start off with a very simple connect request. It may be a thank you message followed where you're sharing value. It may be you ask then a qualifying question. Then it's only a message 4 that you may, at that stage, to go in with a little bit more of a pitch if someone hasn't responded and something which shares value again. Then you may go in with another qualifying message as a question with the next message. And then it may be a case that you invite people to complete something like a diagnostic, and you may invite someone to have a discovery call with you. Okay. Now you'll notice here, this is what the trick with this is to get people warmed up so they're actually asking for more information or to have a sales-based conversation, and you want to get them off the platform as quickly as possible. Okay. And that's really important. Okay. Because we're all individuals. You want to have conversations with people. That's how you get really good results. And unfortunately, whether we like it or not, for example, a lot of the training that's out there at the moment, especially is being taught out there where you can so-called create all these funnels and everything else that goes with it. And yes, funnels are fine to a degree. I hate the word funnel because, it suggests process. Everyone wants to be treated as individuals. And the difficulty is a lot of the training that's out there is based on methodologies that we measured 5 or 10 years ago. Okay, so especially if you've got a higher ticket sell, it's really important you do this in the right way. Now let's look at a couple of case studies. Got a lovely lady called Claire Burrows we've done quite a bit of work with. She runs a call centre near Tunbridge Wells, and in the first 6 months of working with her, we helped her to generate 11 new clients. Michael Romling, who's going to be on our next, our live stream in the next 6 weeks or so, he's started working with us a while ago, and in the first 10 months, he managed to get £160,000 worth of new business through activities that we helped him with. There's this lovely couple, our business, business partnership, as it were. We've got 2 guys called Anthony and Don, and they started their business together about 5-6 years ago. Believe it or not, they were friends from the age of 4 years old. So we worked with them both at a personal level to really help them to move their business forwards. And that's their team there on the right-hand side. But they also wanted a lot of help in terms of generating new opportunities. So lovely people to work with. They're heavily involved in facilities management. And then at the other end, and this shows you that what we're sharing with you today works very well with ultra high ticket sales as well. This Adam Molson from Form 3. Now, most of you probably got faster payments. Okay, so if you have, then that's what you're benefiting from now. I tell you what I'm going to do. I was going to explain that in just a moment. Let me just break out for a moment because I'm very conscious I've been doing a lot of talking, and I've not perhaps given people a chance to ask any questions. So let's have a quick look at this now. So Mike, nice to see you again here today, and also Renato as well. Thank you very much for joining today, and also Simon Ward. Now Simon's raised a really good point here. He said GDPR, and just to touch on that part of it. In fact, I'm going to explain a little bit more about that in just a moment. One thing I'll just clarify, if you're using LinkedIn as a source of finding new opportunities, bear in mind that people will have opted in under LinkedIn's terms and conditions to be communicated with. It is a business professional network. And if people want to set their settings private, they can. But people do set that on, the vast majority of people, probably 90% of people on the platform will set it to public, because the reason they want to be on there, because they want to be seen and communicated with in a business context. So from a LinkedIn point of view, you don't need to worry about GDPR because it's all compliant. It's a little bit more abstract when you start to communicate with people via email. And I will, Michael, sorry, Simon, if I haven't covered this properly a bit later on, will you remind me on it, please? Because it is an important topic, but I've got some good news for you on that as well. So do keep these questions coming. Those of you who've joined us today, I know some of you perhaps joined in via other means, might be from your mobile phone, or we've got our phone connection, whatever it may be. Do feel you can ask, and we'll do our best to try and help. Sort of moving on a little bit from there, with Adam Molson, this business has only existed for about 5 or 6 years. When we originally started working, there's 16 people. They were up to 60 people last year, and they're expected to be about 150, 160 people around now. And those of you who know things like faster payments, for example, the fastest payments we used to be able to get, if you exclude chaps as a payment method, about 3 years ago, was you might be able to use so-called fast payments, and it would perhaps take 2 hours for money to go from one bank to another. This company has actually been the technology that has enabled banks to actually make instant payments. So if, for example, I'm making this up, but I'm pretty sure it's with these banks, if you want to transfer money from a Santander account to a Barclays bank account, you'll probably notice now these are typically going through within literally a few minutes. And this company, Form 3, actually invented or came up with a technology solution which bridges across different banking platforms. And it requires, the reason I'm explaining this, it requires sign-off typically by 4 or 5 people at director level within those banks, plus probably the CEO as well. Okay, so as you can imagine, it's a very complex sale. The starting point for the average sale was like 300,000, and I think at the average value, a core proposition might be £3 to £5 million. Okay, and the reason I focused on the complexities of the sale is that in their particular case, we're using LinkedIn in association with ourselves to help them to find those golden nuggets, and also be able to interact with different people, so that it actually did trigger those conversations. And that's an interview that's on our website, which you can see under the TV video section of our website if you want to see it. But lovely guy, Adam Molson, with my colleague Alex Smith, who's with us at the time. And we very much have your success in mind, as you'd expect. And I'm sure you'd agree that what we've described today is much easier than having to make cold calls. Okay, at the end of the day, if things are very difficult, then of course we don't tend to do it. We'll perhaps find reasons not to do it. And then let's look at some key numbers as a case in point. Let's say your business is currently turning over £250,000 a year, and you want to take your business to £400,000 a year. That means that you need to increase your sales by £12,500 per month, month in, month out, okay, to get to your target. Or put it another way, if you delay taking action, then it's costing your business £12,500 every month of delay. So, and if you make no change, everything stays the same. But actually, that's not really the case. You're going backwards. And it's never more true than it is now when I say that. And the reason for that is if we go to this slide here, what you'll notice, taking the same illustration, but let's imagine we're, how things were, say, a year ago, or even 3 or 4 months ago, if you took no action, not only would your business not be growing, but invariably you'd find a big drop in your turnover as well. And let's say it dropped by 35% because you weren't taking action. The actual cost per month would not be 12,500. It'd be £19,375. Now, these figures aren't made up. If you work it out in a calculator, you will come up with exactly the same figures. And this could make the difference between your business living and thriving, or your business ultimately either just surviving or dying. Okay, so the perceived risk of not spending money on the right things is actually far greater of sense of failure than doing things the right way around. So you're actually focusing on the growth of your business. So, and this could be never truer than it is now, because thank God we're coming out of this terrible recession. I've just heard some reports at lunchtime today which suggests that the government of the Bank of England, I think they were expecting growth of 7% over the remainder of this year. So they're expecting growth to be very strong. Obviously, there's certain sectors which would be very badly hit, but it's really a good time now to be putting strategies in place for growth in your business. And you need to have a really well-oiled sales machine. And as part of this, we've touched on a little bit earlier on, we've got a solution called BizGrowth Time Machine, and that enables you to achieve these great results. So, for example, what you start off with is being able to search for people via LinkedIn, find your exact target clients. You've got full control over that. So you can control the quality of those people that are coming in as opportunities. Then you can use something like BizGrowth Time Machine, as it were, and it will enable you to reach out to people with consistency and reduce a job down from 3 to 5 hours down to about 15 minutes a day. And it's intelligent enough to automatically stop on that one person when someone replies, so you can personally reply to it as appropriate. And what it means is your business development resource can really maximize the potential and their results. Now, a few other quick case studies. Lorna Leonard, lovely lady. She's a real introvert, but in the first 10 days of working with us, she managed to generate a 30K contract out of it. Now, that's not the norm, by the way, but it's nevertheless a fact. And, this whole process suited her really well. Now, this doesn't directly relate to our core business, but it just does explain the depth of what we provide. We've got a really good relationship for the CEO of PayPal Giving, which is a charitable arm of PayPal. And they asked us to do a lot of data enrichment work for them, they work with charities a lot, as you would expect. And we worked with them in the UK and in Australia, interesting enough, to cleanse their data sets for them and then give them back. So that was very extensive. We had to do a search across the Charity Commission website, Companies House, also look on their website, update all the details and give them all that data back again. So they entrusted us with that data. Lovely lady called Susanna Schofield, we've done quite a bit of work with. Jubilee Sending Trust, they're a charity that specialises in helping adults and children with disabilities. Over a period of 18 months, we helped them to get £270,000 worth of sponsorship and private charters for their ships, which enabled them to carry on their excellent work they're doing. So these are just a few examples of what to think about. And in terms of times of massive disruption, it's really about thinking about how you can adapt to the new market and with your business growth in mind, and the importance of your tribes and what that looks like, and how you can have a well-oiled marketing and sales machine. It's important to also understand what may reflect on what may break you, as well as scale, and how you can scale and how you can make that success for yourselves. And it's also really important to understand how you can do a job once and then use technology to really increase your reach and your sales with support from ourselves and with growth in mind for you, as it were. And obviously, and I've shared quite a bit of value as far as, information today. And we do like to work with people on quite a personal level. So we work with people both on a one-to-one basis. Muriel's particularly strong in that and supporting our clients. And we also work on a group-based basis. And obviously, lots of that at the moment is online for obvious reasons. But we'll go back to much more of a hybrid model. So we were running a lot of physical online events before the pandemic, and we will go back to running some physical events again as soon as a lot of the venues start opening up to enable us to do it. So just going back to these stats, you may remember I mentioned about the breakdown earlier on, but you can see there's 61%, and some of the best relationships we've formed have been through LinkedIn. For example, Chris Cooper, who helps me co-host these sessions on Thursdays, has evolved a guy called Alex Rim. He was responsible for 5,000 people at IBM. He's on our advisory board. Karen Davies works a lot with medium to size organizations. She's a bit of a fun lover. And a lovely guy called Barnaby Winter, who's a larger life character, some of you may well remember from the live streams. And the crucial thing is also to bear in mind, if something is free, you are the asset and the commodity. It is really important to you, therefore, leverage your time and rise above the noise. And it is a case of really investing yourself, and it's an asset in the business, and treating yourself as the most valuable resource. So what we've covered really is everything to do around the social selling blueprint, which is lead generation, prospect nurturing, sales optimization. We're not really focusing so much on these areas today because we covered that on the mini conference. But clearly around the brand amplification part, there's a lot you can do there. A lot of people, for example, do post on articles, and they might post it through LinkedIn and possibly Facebook. Facebook these days, you don't get much traction unless you pay for it. They used to give you a lot of organic reach. They don't do that so much now because they want you to play. LinkedIn is a bit more open to that at the moment, but it's increasingly becoming more of a place where they expect you to pay to play again. So it's about really being able to create content through video live streams to start with, repurposing that and broadcasting that, by the way, through social channels and YouTube, then repurposing it, then rebroadcasting it again. That's a slightly shorter version. Then taking a variation of that, turning that into a podcast, okay, and that can go out through 7 or 8 social media channels. Then from that, you can repurpose it again and turn that into a downloadable report or a white paper. And you can then go a stage further from that and turn that into lots of posts and articles from the same content. And you get the drift. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's a really good brand amplification technique. So it was a little bit of a summary of what I talked about the other day. And if you've not already completed it, I would like to invite you to complete the sales to marketing diagnostic. This is where we'll look at with you your business and marketing mix and your balanced product portfolio. This is free of charge, by the way, and you can learn as part of that. You'll also discover how you can bring your sales form and the social selling blueprint. We'll actually, as part of that, give you a really nice report, how to amplify your brand and increase your reach, and how you can use technology to really leverage what you do and get your time back and prepare your business growth readiness to move into the next growth phase. And if you want to reach that, do that. You can go to, you can basically do this, and you'll get an 8-page personalized report within about 30 minutes of completion. That'll be emailed to you. Muriel, if you could very kindly put these links in the chat, please, if that's all right. Sorry, I meant to ask you that earlier on.
Already done it, Rupert.
Oh, you read my mind. Lovely, thank you. And also, we'll deal with any questions in just a moment as well. So, so for the diagnostic health check, although if you do the .com, it will redirect to the .tv. We suggest you just go businessgrowthbureau.tv/diagnostic. That will take you to this questionnaire. It only takes 4.5 minutes to 6 minutes to complete, and you then get the report. It's mainly made up of yes/no questions, so it's very straightforward. And if you do want to book a call in with myself or Muriel, just choose that link there. Just notice the URL is slightly different because it goes into our calendar system. So it's as.me, and it's got the RMA 15 link at the end. And we obviously, as part of that, we'd look at what's really important for you and discuss the methodologies and also share the output that's been the reports generated, and we'll explain what that means. And basically, the other thing relating to that is sorry, I've just lost my train of thought. There we go. I won't give a presentation today because obviously I want to keep to a timescale from your point of view. But these are a few of the screen grabs from the BizGrowth Time Machine, which we talked about earlier on. So you'll notice that very detailed analytics. You actually get a very friendly dashboard. This sits on top of LinkedIn, so you only need to go and LinkedIn every now and again, because this will actually manage everything for you. In terms of what you'll get from that, if you ultimately do want a conversation with you, is you get the technology solution in a box. It gives you access to a selection of the 650 million records based on a lot of targeting, very high return on investment. The other thing, and this relates to the question we were asked a bit earlier on about GDPR, when you're running campaigns through this technology platform, if once they become a first level connection, it will also automatically do its best to find that person's email address and phone number as part of the exercise. And that's obviously from information that people have chosen to set as publicly available. Now, obviously, if you're communicating at a personal level, the rules around GDPR are particularly tight. If you're communicating in a business-to-business context and providing you're really respectful of people in the way you engage with them, then it does enable you to have a level of personal communication there as well. Sorry, personal communication in a business context. And that you can actually export that as a CSV file and bring that into your own system, so long as you do things the right way. Also, you've got the ability to do what we class hyper-personalized messages. So that's where you can incorporate an image with text, for example. You can actually do it with a video as well, although that's a lot more complex. So you could have a picture there which appears to have a personal message on a whiteboard addressed to that one person. Then you can have their profile picture on the screen behind. And now we would only suggest using that perhaps once for each person in the whole campaign, okay? But it's a pattern interrupt, so people are much more likely to respond if one of those messages is a bit quirky and a little bit different. Here's some more graphics of the output that you get from this technology solution. And also on this screen here, you'll notice very visual. It'll actually tell you how many messages have been sent out. And if you were to click through to each one, you'll be able to tie directly with the person's LinkedIn profile, and you'll be able to see the message trail, and you can respond directly from here as well. And we've already shown you about the dashboard. And so this is literally your optimized systems for business growth. Now, what I do want to just touch on very briefly, but I'll come into this in just a second. Let's see whether I'm missing anything here. So these are the answers to, let me just bear me a second. Now, people put 5 in here. Oh, no, it's not. Why has it got 5 there, Muriel? Oh, 1 5. Sorry. What's happened on my side? It's word wrapped. So I suddenly figured out that. So no one's actually had a go at the competition. So there we go. So I thought you guys might have a bit of a go at the competition. I was looking forward to give an Amazon voucher away as part of today's session.
I'll have it.
No, you can't have it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Muriel, think of another question. I want to give this £20 Amazon voucher away to someone.
Oh, gosh.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you just a minute, Muriel. Think of that question, and I'll come back to you in about 2 minutes, okay? Because we're almost at the end now. And if you can give that away to someone, then that's great. Now, just coming back to this for a second. So do think of your final questions. I'll try and cover those off before we finish today. And also, Muriel, let's see if we can come up with a good question in just a moment. Okay, so in terms of next week, we've got a session in a slightly different format next week. We're going to run it as a little bit of a focus group. It's going to be really about a series of questions around how you're going to spring forward your business based on what we've gone through and what you can put in place right now. So there's not really any presentations with this. It's more about a working session where everyone can join in, ask some questions, and we'll just look at and explore with you is what's working well at the moment, what isn't working, how to fix and move forwards, and then what the new world order is going to look like. And we'll be seeking your opinion on that as well. And obviously the answer on that is going to be very different according to each person as part of the session, and how to adapt and thrive. And if you want to join in that next week, your registration for that is exactly the same as normal. It's just that we'll be having it on a different basis. Some of you will be invited as well to actually take part on live stream as well. So you don't just need to, you can just stay on Facebook or YouTube as you are at the moment, but we can give you a special link so you can actually join in the conversation directly, which is a bit of fun, really. Now, to register for these, basically, we've got our next mini conference next month. We just had one this week. Again, that'd be probably a slightly different format. You also can take part in an on-demand webinar. Now, with the on-demand webinar, that will cover the things you will have missed the Tuesday. So you're very welcome to register for that. And if you go to the homepage of our website or look for free learning, I think it says on the top menu, you'll find you can register for the webinar there, and you choose a time that you want and you can take part. And then the weekly live streams you can access by choosing the appropriate option on the homepage and registering. Now, you've got the option of choosing continue, which just books the one session, or if you choose recurring, you can book multiple weeks, and these are all free. And you, of course, complete the diagnostic health check as we've already talked about. So I think we've come to the end as far as that's concerned, but I'd like to deal with any questions. Muriel, have you thought of a question?
I have.
Go with it.
Okay, on an earlier slide, you showed 7 cogs, but you only actually covered a certain amount of those cogs today.
Right.
How many cogs did you cover today?
Okay, well, now this could be interesting. Come on, the first person who comes up with the right answer will win, but I will give everyone just a bit of a chance. And we do have to factor in a bit of a time delay, because I think YouTube runs about 20 seconds behind Facebook, doesn't it, Muriel? And the live streams, I believe.
I don't think it's as much as that, Rupert.
You think it's a bit less? I think it depends how busy their servers are. So probably it's not so bad now, but during the middle of lockdown, when everyone was really bored.
So the question was, out of the 7 cogs that Rupert showed, how many have we talked about today?
Oh dear. Come on, we go. Simon's come in. I'm not going to comment on the answer yet. Anyone else who wants to advance further on that? Yeah, so we'll give everyone about another 15, 20 seconds. Right, so we've got 5:52 and 42 seconds at the moment, so we'll give everyone till 5:53 exactly. Let's look at my clock here. So your clock on YouTube or Facebook might be slightly different, but you've still got about 15 seconds. Okay, so we got Simon Ward and Mike G. They're both saying 3 cogs. Okay, right. So I think we've given everyone enough time now. There
was actually no time delay between Facebook and YouTube. They're
really?
on par today. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Right now, actually, it was quite a difficult question, Muriel, because I covered 3 cogs in detail, but I did go into 4 cogs to a degree. And I briefly went over the other 3 as well.
Yes, but you did say at the beginning that you're going to cover the 3 cogs.
I did. So I think on the benefit of doubt, and as Simon Ward by a whisper was the first one to come up with the correct answer, I think we'll give Simon Ward the £20 Amazon voucher for that, Simon. So
yeah, he won that fair and square.
Yeah,
well done, Simon.
Right. Yeah, you did try for that. You were only a few seconds behind. So if you just make sure, Simon, you give Muriel Muriel's email address is on this slide, but you actually email her your Amazon email address, because that may be different from your normal email address. Otherwise, the voucher might go to someone else by mistake. Okay, so just make sure you provide that to us. Just drop Muriel an email, and we'll go from there. So I think. So I think without further ado, I think we're covered, as everyone's been quite shy today. Not a problem at all with that. Do reach out to either of us. If you want to complete the diagnostic, please do so. You'll find that of great value. If you've done it already, feel free to book in a call, and we'll perhaps go from there. But we'll look forward to seeing you next Thursday. It'll be a very different session. And thank you very much for taking part today. So you take care, everyone. Have a fantastic evening. Very grateful for you taking part. Yeah, take care. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye. Bye.